everyone. My name is Alison Woodall, and I'm very excited to be the guest interviewer for the Leaving California YouTube channel. And today I am talking to Chena Morris, and she's a realtor in the Cookeville, Tennessee area. Chena, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I always like to start interviews by just kind of learning a little bit about where someone has lived before, because there'll be many people watching this interview who may not actually want to go to Tennessee, but they would maybe want to go move to one of the states that you've lived in before. So can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up in California and some other places you've lived?
Sure. I was born in Corona, California, and I spent most of my life in Yorba Linda, California, Orange County area. I did do a brief stint when I was young, from the age of, I believe, I was about two to the middle of kindergarten. I was in Alaska. I lived in a town called Soldotna, Alaska. My parents had spent some time in an RV. They actually had a really cool old Airstream, and they traveled all through British Columbia and into Alaska, and that's where my name came from. It's Chena, Alaska. No one calls me Chena, it's Chena. But if you were to Google it, that is what where my name came from. And my brother was born up there, and my father built the house that we lived in. We actually lived in the Airstream while my father built the house that we lived in, and it was a one-bedroom cabin with an outhouse. And my mother hauled water in from our well, and that's where we bathed, in a big utility sink, and she cooked water on the stove, put it in our bath. We didn't have running water. Our heat was a wood-burning stove that she chopped the wood, and my mom ended up liking it better than my father did. My father wanted to go back to California. My mom really liked it. But his parents got sick and they did have to come back, and we settled in Elsinore at that point. And then we moved to Yorba Linda, and that's where I spent the rest of my life, in Yorba Linda. And at 21, my mother came out to Tennessee to visit her sister, who had married a man from Gainesboro, Tennessee, which is just the town over from me. And she really liked it, and she was not going to be able to afford a house in Yorba Linda. She was just working too much, and it was never going to happen. So I was 21, my brother was 18, and she said, I'm going to Tennessee, and you guys can come with, or you can stay here. And I finished up that semester of college that I was in there at Fullerton University, and I packed up and I came to Tennessee with her. And I've now been here for almost 19 years. And I love it. I love this area. I got married, and I did a very brief stint in Fairhope, Alabama, but my husband and I just didn't, it was very humid, too humid for us down there. We came back to Tennessee, and I'll never leave this area. I like this area a lot.
Wow. And so when you were 21, was that a hard decision to make, to leave pretty much the life you'd only ever lived in California, to move to Tennessee?
It was, I don't remember it being a hard decision. I mean, it was hard to leave friends and things like that, but I did, like, my family was moving. My aunt was already here, so I had a couple of cousins here, and my brother was going, my mom was going, and it wasn't that scary to me. Like, I always felt like I could go back if I wanted to. I had enough family and friends out there that I could always go back. Being 21, it wasn't like I had a whole lot of bills, and it just wasn't that big of a deal for me to pick up and go.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people who use their children as an excuse to stay, and they say, well, I can't leave until my kids are done with high school or my kids are done with college. And I always encourage people to actually use their children as the reason to leave, not the excuse to stay. And I think your parents' journey to Alaska, while you may probably not have remembered very much of that, I also think as parents, we condition our children. If we're brave enough to make the decision to move, your kids grow up thinking, well, it's just normal to pick up and move to a different state, which changes their kind of outlook. So yeah. I have to go back to the humidity thing. So Alabama, that you were in southern Alabama, so it's more humid.
Yes, it's lower Alabama is what it's called. Fairhope, Alabama is just east of Mobile. I lived 1 mile from Mobile Bay. That's where my house was.
Yeah. So I think people worry that the whole of the South is super humid, but to me, it seems to be just the closer you are to the coast is where it gets like almost unbearably humid.
It's hot here. I won't lie to people and tell them, oh, it's just like California. It's not. It's humid. It does get humid. But we have a lot of rain here. So that's what keeps it so green. People always see Tennessee, and it's so green here. We have so many rivers and lakes, waterfalls. I think we have over 385 waterfalls in Tennessee. So It is humid, but that's because it's green and it rains and we have water here. And that's how I stay cool in the hot summers is there's a lake or a river around any corner, a little stream, creeks. You'll see kids out playing in the creeks. It's not that hard to stay cool because there's so much water around you. Just go get yourself in some water. And we do have the modern conveniences of air conditioning. If you think about your life, most of the time you're in your house, you're at work, you're in a grocery store, you're going to have air conditioning for the most part. But on those weekends when you just got to get out and stretch your legs, it's so easy to find a waterfall or a creek or a lake to get in and just cool off.
Yeah, humidity, it is an issue, but if the pluses of where you live way outweigh the negatives, then you can deal with humidity. We lived in Tampa, which is the most humid place I've ever lived.
Humid, yeah.
And I mean, when we left Tampa and it was like 95 degrees and moved to the Central Valley where it was 107 degrees,
yeah,
it was nicer here at 107 degrees. But the benefits of being on the bay and on the Gulf Coast and the lifestyle that we had in Tampa way outweighed any kind of discomfort from humidity.
Well, you do have to just make your decisions. Are you going to deal with the humidity to have that beautiful greenery, or is some people, the humidity, they just can't handle it. But I do feel like the more you acclimate to it, the better off you are. I'm outside all the time. I kayak, I hike, I boat, I ride horses. I'm outside all the time. So the humidity really doesn't bother me that much. You just put your hair up in a ponytail and, you're fine with it. But if you spend 99% of your time inside and then in mid-August, you're like, oh, I'm going to go for a hike, it's going to be hot. So you just have to acclimate a little bit to what you're dealing with.
Yeah, well, my husband has technicians who are out in the field and they're always sweaty, but they do outside jobs and they just get used to it. And then when they get in their air-conditioned truck, they're extra grateful.
Yeah, they're super grateful for those modern conveniences. Drink your water and you'll be fine. Yeah.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit more about Cookeville. So where is that in Tennessee for people who don't know?
So Cookeville is Middle Tennessee, and a lot of areas encompass Middle Tennessee, but Cookeville, I really feel like is true Middle Tennessee because we're right in between Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. We're about 90 miles from Nashville. We're just about 100 miles from Knoxville and right in the middle between about 95 miles to Chattanooga. So I really feel like it's kind of the center of the state, which also makes it good for commuting. If you need to be at an airport, the good things about Nashville Airport is it's on the east side of Nashville. So you don't even have to go into Nashville to get to the airport from Cookeville. I can be at the airport in an hour. And it's a smaller airport, so it's easy to fly into and out of. It's not like a huge LAX or anything like that. But it is an international airport. Cookeville is the largest micropolitan in Tennessee. We have in the city of Cookeville, I believe we have about 32,000 people that live here. Putnam County has about 80,000 people that encompasses the whole area around it. I do work in White County. So Cookeville is like the hub of a bunch of smaller cities. Cookeville's kind of the central, and then you've got Livingston to the north, you've got Monterey to the east, you've got Allgood, which is almost part of Cookeville to kind of join together. You've got Sparta, Tennessee, which is just south of Cookeville, and then you have Baxter that is just west of Cookeville. And then you have Salina that's a little bit farther out, but Salina is still a good area if you're looking for a much smaller town, still within an hour to Cookeville. So if you need to go, do that grocery shopping and stuff, Salina is still a good area. And those are kind of all the areas that I work. And there's a few smaller unincorporated areas in those also that I kind of work. But Cookeville is kind of the hub of all of it. Like if you were to live in White County, Sparta, or up in Monterey, you're going to have restaurants, you're going to have dining, you're going to have shopping, you're going to have all those things that you need. But if you need an Ulta for beauty products, you're going to want to come into Cookeville. If you want home goods, you're going to want to come to Cookeville. So you're not going to have to, if you want to go out and sit down and have dinner, you wouldn't necessarily have to come into the city, Cookeville. You can have all that in these smaller areas, but Cookeville's still kind of your hub. That's where your big stuff is happening, your concerts, things like that. Your movie theater is in Cookeville. So
wonderful. And kind of what's your market like right now? Because I know around the Nashville area in particular, so many people are moving there that the house prices are crazy. Do you still have affordable housing around you?
So I always like to say Cookeville is kind of like this little hidden gem that nobody knows about, because if you start talking about Cookeville, Sparta, all those areas are like, where are you talking about? So we actually, our median house income, our house pricing right now is $250,000. That's our average house price is $250,000. Let me get my stats here so I have all my information. Sorry. That's $138 per square foot. Our average home on market right now is 30 days. 30 days on the market right now before they sell. Okay, and I'm lost. So
that's so 30 days on the market sounds like you know that you're probably not going to get into some kind of crazy bidding war for a house, because that's what scares people, is that they're going to have to pay, you know, 400,000 or 500,000, and there's going to be multiple offers on a property, and they're going to find their dream home, and they're just not going to get it. And this is going to happen to them multiple times. So to hear that, you know, that some of your properties are on the market for a longer time, that to me suggests that you have a much more kind of open, more accessible market.
Yeah, so in March of this year, the home sold for asking price. Our average home sold for asking price. They did not go, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over asking. So what they're pricing the house, what our realtors are pricing our houses at, is what they're selling for. I have seen multiple offers. I have seen over asking, but we've kind of calmed down a little bit since we've come into summer. You know, people are traveling, kids are home, people, you know, it's just kind of calming down a little bit. So our houses are not getting those crazy over asking, and we're still just, you know, we're not Nashville. You know, Nashville's that bigger city. People are watching these Facebook pages. I always feel like people talking about Tennessee. Oh, Nashville, 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 Nashville. Tennessee is so much more than Nashville. And if you come this way, you come a little more east, you get a more workable market. You know, there's not so many over asking, not so much competition. So it does calm down a little bit. And you can get in houses. We do have houses under that $250,000 mark as well. I see houses all the time that hit the market for 120, 130. There's houses on the market for under 100,000. But then we do also have those $500,000 up to $1 million listings as well. You can buy a house with a lake view for, you know, under $1 million. So we have a very good range of prices for houses here.
And that's good. And I always say with Tennessee was the first place I lived when I moved from England. And, you know, even if the distances are quite long, there's no traffic. So you can go, you know, you can get places much faster than if you're, you know, in the Bay Area or in the, you know, LA area where, you know, 5 miles can take you an hour to go. 5 miles will take you 5 minutes in Tennessee.
That's something I do run into a lot with people. I work with mainly people coming out of California because of this Facebook page. And I think just my connections to California, I understand the struggles, you know, and I understand where people are coming from with, you know, you're coming out of California and what they're looking for here. But I do run into people a lot of times, I can't be more than 5 minutes outside of town. I'm like, well, 5 minutes is nothing because there is no traffic here. You get out on those country roads and there's no traffic. You might have to sit behind a tractor and a farmer, but that's, you know, that's kind of fun traffic. And it's beautiful. The drives are, even if you have to drive 30 minutes to get somewhere, you're out in green rolling pastures, looking at water and rivers and trees and beautiful farmhouses. It's not like you're sitting in deadlock traffic, breathing the exhaust from the people in front of you. It's a nice drive if you have to drive 20 or 30 minutes to get somewhere. So that is something I run into a lot. People are concerned about the distance in between places here.
Yeah. What about property taxes?
Our property taxes on average are 0.99% of the assessed value. That does drop a little bit if you get outside of Putnam County. Putnam County is priced a little higher than the surrounding counties, White County, Overton County. It drops a little bit if you get outside of Putnam County.
Okay, wonderful. And then, so your area, the schools, what are schools like? Are they well rated?
So our schools are actually really well rated. I actually just did that research this morning to be able to have that information. And according to publicschoolreview.com, in Putnam County, we have Capshaw, which is rated 10 out of 10. Prescott School is 9 out of 10. Allgood Elementary is 9 out of 10. Northeast is out of 9 out of 10. And in White County, where I live, is Central View is 9 out of 10. Northfield Elementary is 8 out of 10, and Doyle Elementary is 8 out of 10. So our schools are ranked very well here.
Wow, that is good, because I find often on these rankings, the more kind of country schools get lower rankings. But I was talking to a guy last week, and he said if you can't go off rankings necessarily, because you walk by and a central LA school, he said it was like watching kids come out of a penitentiary.
That is true. That is true. You get into some of those smaller country schools here, and they have smaller classrooms, and the teachers, they know all the students. It's kind of what people are coming out of California looking for. They want that smaller, more hometown where everybody knows each other. And I always hear, I'm looking for that Mayberry town. And that's kind of what we are here. Everybody's friends, everybody's looking out for each other. We've got those great little communities, and religion is really big here. We are a very conservative area. I did the research on that too. 70% of people voted Republican in Putnam County, 80% voted Republican in White County. So it is a very conservative area, and you get kind of the benefits that go along with that if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, I love that community feel. The family that it was my best friend's in-laws when I first moved to Tennessee. They had that true Tennessee, teeny tiny little town in it was near the kind of the Knoxville area, but it's just the most amazing place to raise kids. It's good family values. Yes. And even if people don't go to church, the religion is kind of what holds everybody together. In the South, people always say, "Oh, what's your name? What church do you go to?"
What church do you go to? That's the first thing they ask. What church do you go to? But even if, you don't want people to feel like if you get here and you don't go to church, oh, you're going to be an outcast. You're not. I never get pressured to go to church. People always invite, but it's never a pressure. But you still I have a lady who I just sold a house to out of California last year. They closed last September, and she found herself a great church that she loves here. And she went to drop off a care package from that church to a new neighbor that the church kind of sent her, "Hey, take this great care package." And I had sold those people a house that closed on Friday. And so they kind of found each other, and they are neighbors now. And I think they'll end up being good friends. So. Yeah.
Because I always say, even if you don't like join a church, you still get to do Easter egg hunts.
And you still get to all the benefits, the events that they throw, and you still get all the benefits of that tight community. They'll still invite you in once a year if you want to go. So.
Yeah, a free breakfast with Santa. Yes. And that if you've got kids. And then, if you're older, I know the churches in Georgia, when we lived there, they had so many community outreach events for all different age groups. And it's just a very easy way to belong to your community, and you don't need to know Bible verses or anything like that. You just go along and hang out.
That is a good point that people I see on the Facebook pages too. People are always concerned, I'm not going to know anybody, I'm leaving all of my friends. The church is a great way to go in and meet some people and find people that maybe have some common interest. Even if church is not your thing, it's still a great place to go meet people and to find friends, to find events that are going on, and to be able to connect with the community.
Well, wonderful. Well, just going back to schools, I was thinking about older, people who may have older age group kids. Are there any colleges or further education locally?
So we do have a really great Tennessee Technology College here, Tennessee Tech, and it's an engineering college, but they actually have a really great nursing program as well. Cookeville Regional Medical Center is our hospital here in Cookeville, and it's one of the leading hospitals in Tennessee. We have our own life flight that comes in. We used to fly out to Erlanger in Chattanooga, but now that we have our own life flight, and they come into Cookeville Regional, which is great. And Cookeville is one of our leading employers in the area too. They provide a lot of jobs, a lot of different avenues of jobs, not only medical, but all the things that go along with that. So I got sidetracked. Tennessee Technology University is here. So, and they have quite a few different programs for scholarships. They have the University High Flyer Scholarship. They have the Tennessee Tech Transfer Pride Scholarship. So there's a lot of different programs to get into that college. I don't consider Cookeville a college town. Like if I go out to dinner, I don't feel like there's beer, bonging going all over the place. You're not being overrun with college kids. It's certain hours, certain restaurants, you're gonna run into more college kids, but it's still, there's not like droves. They're not doing spring break here. You're not gonna run into that. It's just good kids, trying to get their education, and they're just getting it done here. So and then we also have a great community college. Nashville State Community College has a branch here, and that's a really good local community college as well.
Okay, so wonderful. So, because I always think, you sometimes your kids want to come with you and they want to do community college before they transfer out. So it's just knowing that kind of that further education is available. And so you touched on jobs that the hospital's a big employer. Are there any other major employers within kind of commuting distance from Cookeville?
Absolutely. So the university, Tennessee Tech is a huge provider. Cookeville Regional Medical Center is a huge provider. We have a lot of factories as well. There's a lot of production going on here. Averitt Trucking Company is here. One of their major dispatch units is here. SunTrust Banks has a call center located here. There are a lot of jobs here. There's a lot of retail as well, because Cookeville is kind of that hub. There's a lot of retail here. A lot of restaurants. We have a lot of chain restaurants, as well as locally owned restaurants.
All right. Well, wonderful. Well, I think we've covered almost anything. Can you think of anything else that your area that you wanted to cover or people should know?
Yes. So kind of why I think people move to Cookeville in this area is within an hour of Cookeville, we have 9 state parks. There's 53 or 56 state parks in all of Tennessee, but 9 of them are within an hour. Here, we actually have Cummins Falls, Burgess Falls, Fall Creek Falls, Window Cliffs, Rock Island, all right here. I can be at any of those within 30 minutes. So those are some really great ones. And then there's a few state natural areas too. We've got Virgin Falls, we've got Dog Cove. I know I'm missing other ones. We've got Pickett State Park, Standing Stone State Park. There's just so many of them, as well as Center Hill Lake and Del Hollow Lake. Center Hill Lake actually borders Cookeville, and Smithville is really where, if you look up Center Hill Lake, it'll say Smithville, but the lake is 64 miles long. So it does span a very large area here. It kind of starts at Rock Island and then it goes down into Smithville. And so it's a huge lake, beautiful lake, waterfalls all over the place. The water's always cool. There's 9 marinas on the lake. A lot of those have boat rentals. They've got restaurants. So that's a really good recreational activity to beat the humidity. Del Hollow is about an hour north in that city of Salina that I spoke about. There's some beautiful lake communities up there. And that one is a little bit smaller at, I believe, 46 miles long. I feel like I shouldn't be quoting this because I'm not exactly sure.
It's long enough that you can get on a boat and it'll take you a long time to get from one side to the other.
It's beautiful. It was actually Del Hollow. Hang on, I got some stats about Del Hollow. Del Hollow is the largest federal trout hatchery east of the Mississippi River, producing 1.5 million trout a year for any trout fishermen. And it was voted one of the top 5 most beautiful lakes in the world. So it's a pretty lake. And it also has the largest walleye population in the South. It has 620 miles of shoreline. So we've got lots of water here.
Wow. And I always think that as a Californian, if you live near the coast, people think they can't live without the ocean.
Yeah.
But yet when you live in the central states, you just, as long as you're near water, it really doesn't matter whether it's the ocean or whether it's the lake. And the benefit of a lake is you can actually get in it. Whereas unless you live in the LA area, no one, like the Bay Area seems to go in the ocean because it's too cold.
Well, it's too cold. And I see pictures of their kind of letting the homeless population take over the beaches. So I don't know if that's even something people want to do anymore. But the lakes here, they're accessible and they're beautiful and they're clean. And being such huge bodies of water, you can be out on the lake and see very few other people out there. So it really is nice to get out and get on those bodies of water.
Well, wonderful. Well, the only other thing that I would like to talk to you about is you mentioned when we talked earlier that you used to be like a long distance truck driver, and this is not related to real estate or living places, but I know that there's a lot of people who are going to get on the road. They may be driving like one of those Penske trucks or a U-Haul truck. They may be towing their car. So I know I can tow stuff, but I can't back anything. So if I know someone can tow, what are your top tips for if you're driving like a big truck for the first time, or you're maybe towing everything you own from California to Tennessee? What are your top tips?
Yeah. So when I first married my husband is a truck driver. He owns a truck and trailer. When I first married him, I went ahead and got my CDL and went on the road with him for 5 years, and we drove team. And that was our route. Was we would leave Tennessee and we would drive into Sacramento head down the coast into LA, and then come back. And we did that once a week for 5 years. So yes, I've driven it a lot. My top tips would be, number one, give the truckers room. They're big, they are heavy, and they're at work. I know everyone's out traveling, but they're at work, and just give them room. Don't cut them off. Don't hang out next to them. Just give them space, and you'll be safe. They're professionals. They're doing a good job. Just give them space. Don't cut them off. Don't slam on your brakes. Give them a little bit of space. And when you're towing, tips for yourself towing, swing wide. Swing wide. Give it room. Give yourself plenty of time to stop. Just really. So there's a saying. I feel like the same saying works for trucking as they say when you're driving on ice for the first time. Imagine you're driving your grandma to church, and she has a bowl of sweet tea or a jar of sweet tea on her lap, and she's in a brand new dress. So like, just drive like that. Just drive like grandma's in the passenger seat, and you don't want to spill the sweet tea on her lap. You know, you stop slow, you take off slow, you swing wide, everything's kind of slow, and you'll be just fine. So it's there's a lot of apps out there too to help you find hotels that'll take your pets, that'll fit a trailer. The rest areas are great. Just take everything slow, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and I would agree. I don't back trailers, but we had a 30-foot travel trailer, and so I can tow it anywhere. But I know that nobody lets you over. The moment you signal, everybody speeds up. So if you know you've got to pull out or turn or something, change lanes at least a mile or so in advance.
Yep. Don't try and do any fast movements. Just be prepared. Yeah.
And it just staying in your lane when you're in a bigger vehicle or when you're towing something. If you're used to driving a car, or even I've got an F-150, but towing something, staying in lane just is so much more tiring. So we would take more breaks.
Yeah, you do. And people always think, I do see on that Facebook page, people always think they're going to do 8 and 10 hour stints. You're probably not doing stints like that. Be more realistic, especially if you have kids or pets with you. It's going to take a long time. You're going to hit traffic backups. You're going to hit road construction. Plan to be 6 to 8 hours. Also, you don't want to be miserable. Driving, you get so tired and it makes it hard. Give yourself a little bit of breaks. Find those rest areas. There's great things to see. This may be the last time that you ever drive that. See the things you want to see. Stop. Go see the Grand Canyon. See the Bug Ranch there in Amarillo. Where they've got all the Cadillac Ranch. See the Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo. Stop and see those things. There's great things to stop and see on Route 66. Take the time. Get out. Stretch your legs. Make an adventure of it. It's like I said, it might be the last time you do that drive, hopefully.
Yes. And it's also, when you move, it's the start of your new life. You're moving for a new life. So you may as well start that life, as soon as you get on the road and live the way, if you want to be more relaxed, if you want to be more adventurous, do all of those things en route. So yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, I am going to put your contact information wherever you're watching this video. You'll find Chena's contact information in the comments. But what is the best way for someone to contact you?
Anyway, I do check my emails often. Texting is lovely. I will answer my phone. If you don't get me, leave a voicemail and I'll get back to you quickly. There are areas with bad service out here, so sometimes I'm out of service areas. I do video walkthroughs for people. I've sold a lot of houses sight unseen to people. I do video walkthroughs. I do FaceTime. We have really good, thorough inspectors out here that will come in and do great inspections on your house. We have great contractors out here that I've brought in for people. If something on an inspection shows up and it concerns them, I'll bring in a contractor. We'll get you quotes. A lot of times people think it's going to cost a lot more because they're used to those California prices. And they're always pleasantly surprised to hear that, a repair isn't going to cost them an arm and a leg out here. So those are things I can do to help people too.
Well, wonderful. Well, I will put your phone number and your email address in the contact information. Thank you so much for sharing all that information with me. And if I'm ever in the Cookeville area, I will look you up.
Call me up. Yeah, I'd love to take you out. Yeah, I really do love this area, and I love showing people all the things that I found here. It's a great place to be.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.